Chris Frantz, ladies and gentlemen. I don't know how many shows we did together with his band and my band, but it was many, as they say. 1, 2, and many.
We used to do double bills together at CBGB's.
That's right. 2 sets apiece.
We always let you guys close the show.
Oh, you did?
Because you were there first.
That's right.
But we got paid 50-50. We split the door 50-50, and there was 4 of you and 3 of us.
I remember the first time we played there, we earned $1 apiece, and I said, that makes us professional musicians.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah. Wonderful times.
Oh,
wonderful
my God.
times. And
now it's a clothing store.
Life is full of twists and turns, right?
Oh, yeah.
And
sure
I know
is.
you've had
my share.
Anybody who's been playing guitar for how
40,
many?
45, 40 years. Only 40 years. It's a good investment.
And making records for 40 years, right?
No, well, I played guitar for a number of years before I got to make a record.
Yeah, sure.
I practiced.
Anyway, my point is anybody who's done that has had ups and downs and
ins and outs.
But here we are, authors.
And here we are. That's right. And Chris has got a book coming out sometime in the near future or the middle future.
We hope so, yeah.
We hope so.
So thank you all for joining us. The book is great, Richard. Everything is combustible.
Everything is funny tonight.
My hat's off. So let's ask some questions.
Okay.
Why did you start taking drugs?
Well, they showed some films about the horrors of drugs. And all of my friends and me just thought it made us much more interested in these things, that if you took them, you became all of these magical things all at once. You became a chemist, a doctor, a mystic, a criminal, all rolled into one package. And I remember I asked myself some questions like, I researched drug taking at the New York Public Library. And I read all sorts of books about people who got, their whole lives went down the toilet. And I thought, this is like standing in a toilet and pushing flush. Can you prevent yourself from going down? And my answer came back, no. And then I asked myself, well, great art sometimes comes out of the centrifugal force that's oppositional to the centripetal force that's pulling you down. Well, am I going to spill out great art? And the answer came back, I don't know. And then I asked myself, well, are you going to do it anyway? And the answer came back, yes. And that's why I took drugs to begin with.
And there was also this idea that it would expand your mind.
That's right. I wanted more life.
That was very appealing, at least to me, when I was, 14?
Right.
15?
Me too.
Yeah.
It made everything more colorful. It made everything funny. It made everything wonderful for a long, long time.
Yeah. Until it didn't.
Until it didn't, of course.
By the way, neither of us are high at the moment.
No. I'm high on life. Probably still stoned.
So, not too many people in this room actually knew Jimi Hendrix, I don't think. But you did. And how did you happen to meet him?
We were at a friend's house waiting for hashish. And instead of hashish, this little scrawny black guy from Brooklyn came in named Velvet Turner. His real name was Velvet on his birth certificate, like velvet with an R. And he claimed to know Jimi Hendrix, and I looked at him and I thought, he does. And he called Jimmy at the hotel and passed the phone around because it kept ringing. And when I got it, Jimmy picked up and said, hey, man, who is this? What's happening, man? In that inimitable voice of his. And I went, it's Velvet, Jimmy. And I handed the phone to him, and we went to a concert he was doing out in Queens that night. And we began following him around and other rock people around. I'd already been to backstage. There was a trick you could pull going to the sound check before security got there, and asking the band, "Hey, Jerry Garcia, can you put me on your guest list?" And he says, "No, my guest list is full of professional people, but Phil might have, hey, Phil Lesh, you know? You got room?" He says, "I don't know anybody in New York. I'll put the kid down." So that happened a lot, you know? I don't think you can do it anymore. So don't come to my show doing that.
There's a great bit in your book about when you met John Lee Hooker.
Oh, God, yeah.
Who I love, you know.
We love John.
Tell us a little bit about what John Lee Hooker told you about guitar playing.
Well, it was 1970. I went to the jazz workshop in Boston. He was playing, and he hadn't come on yet, so I walked back and walked into the dressing room and sat down and was completely quiet. And I thought I was invisible. And he was talking to somebody, and then he turned and he says, and pointed at me, he says, "What's your name, Sonny?" I said, "It's Richard." He says, "Richie?" I don't let anybody call me Richie except my wife and anybody that does now. Anyway, he said, "What you do?" I said, "Well, I play guitar." He said, "Are you good?" I said, "I don't know, you know, I'm mezzo." And he says, "No, you're great. Come on over here. I'll tell you the secret of playing the electric guitar." So I went over and he cupped his hands and he said, "Richie, all them cats playing 6 strings ain't worth shit. I'll tell you the secret of playing the electric guitar. You take off all the string but one, and you learn that one string up and down and up, and you bend it and shake it till the woman go, woo! Then you put a second string on, and you learn them up and down and up and on the side, and you bend them and shake it until the woman go, woo! And the man go, ah. By the time you get to 6 strings, Richie, you'll be a master of the guitar." So I went home and I practiced on 1 string. Well, Jimmy had already taught us that, but I didn't take off the other 5 strings because I couldn't afford to.
I was once...
Oh, and he made me play with him. He said, "I'm going to call you up and you're going to jam with the band, man. You're going to play with the band." I said, no. You know, put cymbals between my knees. So he says, "No, I'm going to turn the lights on and call you up, and if you leave the club, I'm going to send somebody after you." So then he was playing, and I thought, oh, I'm free. He didn't call me up, and then all of a sudden he goes, "And I'm going to bring up a new, young, starting out guitar player, is Richard Lloyd." And I'm like, oh. And he took me around the 12-bar blues 3 times, and all the other musicians are rolling their eyes, you know, like, "Oh, John, this kid." And that was that.
Super cool.
It was super cool. Yeah.
I was once in a line behind him to check into a very posh hotel, John Lee Hooker, and I thought, wow, he's really well dressed, you know. He was.
Dapper.
He had a hat kind of like yours, in fact. But I thought, I hope they don't give him any trouble, you know, when he's checking it. And they didn't, because he whipped out one of those black American Express cards.
Ooh, and they meant something.
Yeah. But back to Jimi Hendrix. I understand you were actually in the studio with him.
Yeah, and there were no drugs or that I saw. It was very
Was this
businesslike.
Electric Lady?
No, he never. I don't think he ever recorded an Electric Lady in his own studio. He was at the record plant, and Gary, not Eddie Kramer, but Gary was there. I can't remember his last name properly, so I won't tell you what it is. And Jimmy was there, and I went in with Devin and Esmeralda, and there were 3 black girls that used to hang around Jimmy. I went in with them, and he would let a group of people come in, and they would listen back to the stuff they'd done the day before. And you know how they used to put store the reels at the end? Yeah. So he told the engineer to put it on backwards, and we heard an 8-minute version of Isabella backwards. And then he started talking to the engineer about, he had this idea for a song where it would go 4 bars forward, the backing track would go 4 bars forward, 4 bars backwards, 8 bars forward, 8 bars backwards, and the engineer's face fell because it would be like a year of cutting tape. And he said, Jimmy, it's impossible. We can't do this. And everybody was like, oh. You could do it digitally now, but you can't, easy with Pro Tools. But no, this was the days of tape. And then when they actually got started to work on either vocals or guitars, then everybody was asked to leave very politely. And it was very nice, you know, a real special experience in my life.
I understand he could be volatile with people around him.
Very, very rarely. Once we were walking up, this is not in the book, but we were walking up to the Fillmore East to go in the stage door, and there was a kid on the hood of a car playing guitar, and Jimmy went off on him. Went like, you should be home with your mama. What are you doing out here at night, you know, playing a guitar in a car, you know, you can't play guitar. And anyway, he once socked me a couple times, but then he cried on me and to make it up by apologizing. And that's in the book, so you'll have to read it.
Yeah. Okay. When did you first see Tom Verlaine, and what did you see in him?
Well, Terry Ork.
Is Tom here?
Yeah, I don't know. He's probably outside looking at the dollar book racks. He's loaned me a few of those. Anyway, Terry Ork, I was living with Terry in Chinatown, and he said, there's a guitarist that does what you do. And I said, well, what the hell do I do? You know, how dare you? Tell me what I do. He says, well, you play guitar by yourself. And there's this guitarist who plays by himself, and he's going to play at Reno Sweeney's, which was this supper club with fake plastic palm trees. And people would go there off Broadway and wannabe Broadway singers, and Liza Minnelli and Peter Lemongello and people like that. And they had an audition night where you could have 10 minutes, and he was one of the performers that had the 10 minutes. And I broke a string at about 7:45 because I wasn't going to go, and I said, all right, what the hell? And we took a cab up there and went in and met Richard Hell, at the door with his girlfriend, and we all took a table, and the waitress came over and said, 2-drink minimum. So we ordered all the drink. We're only here for 10 minutes, 2-drink minimum. So we had a table full of drinks, and then Tom came. He played 3 songs, and he had those long, lanky fingers, somewhat like Jimmy. I mean, he didn't play like Jimmy, but I think he played Venus de Milo and 2 other songs, but the Venus was the second song, and I leaned over to Terry and I said, forget about putting a band together around me. Put him and me together, you'll have the band you're looking for. And he talked to Richard, who was best friends with Tom, and Richard talked to Tom, and they came down to visit at Chinatown, and we passed my guitar back and forth, Tom and I, and they went off to chat, hush, hush. Are we going to take this guy or what? I was like, am I going to take you? I'm this big city guy. You guys come from the hayseed country. But anyway, they came back and said, all right, Tom said, yeah, let's try it. And that was the beginning of television. Then we talked about drummers, and he said, I have a great drummer in Boston. But the minute Billy Fickett came down, he was like complaining about him. So he said, about the first week, he called me over and he said, I think I made a big mistake. He used to be a great rock drummer. Now he's like a jazz drummer. And I said, but all the great guitarists have had crazy drummers. You know, if you look at all the classic great guitarists, they've always had mad, insane drummers. And so I stood up for Billy. And he still auditioned other people when Billy went to Delaware for Christmas to visit his father. But nobody could replace Billy. My God, what a hi-hat.
Yes. Yeah. Somebody was saying there were a lot of really good drummers at CBGB's, but what I remember is that everybody had a different style.
That's true.
Every
every
drummers.
band had a different style, too.
Yeah, every band, but drummers in particular were really diverse in their
Yeah,
playing.
really.
But
Well, you were always great. Clem Burke was great.
well,
And Billy was great. So it was like, with that kind of drive behind you.
I used to watch Billy play, and I'd think, how
What
did he
the-
think of that?
What the hell is he doing? Play that famous fill, Billy falls down a flight of stairs fill, I call it.
You know, Terry Ork was
I love Terry.
bless his heart. He was
Yeah.
very instrumental and helpful,
Yep.
not just to television, but
No,
to
I
a
know.
lot of bands, particularly television.
Well, he was officially our manager at
Yeah.
the beginning.
What was your relationship with Terry?
Like the deepest of friends. He chased me around the bed, but didn't catch me. You know. And then he had a boyfriend, but you know, I stayed in the front. He had a huge wall. What do you call those lofts that go through? Floor through.
Floor through.
But it had a room in the front, which was mine, and then he slept in the back. So it was just friendship, and I was around.
I remember Seymour Stein telling me, I really want to do business with Terry Ork, but he's always laughing.
Yes, he had a great sense of humor, a real a Marxist, anarchist. You know, he wanted to create a scene, and by God, he did.
He sure did, yeah. I got his box set. The Ork Records box
yeah,
set.
I have that too.
Yeah.
I'm on a couple of tracks and produced the Erasers track. That was great fun. I love that song, those
Yeah.
two songs.
Yeah.
We should have done a whole album.
They were something.
He tried to sign the B-52s, but they went with Warner Brothers. What dud.
Yeah, that's in the book.
Yeah.
The chapter about
Atlantic.
the
They-
hats.
Jerry Wessler wanted to sign us, and Ahmet Erdogan said, Jerry, I can't sign this. He's a Turkish guy, little guy. He says, Jerry, I can't sign this band. This is not Earth music. One of my favorite quotes ever given
Not
about
Earth
television.
music.
It's not Earth music.
Okay, let's get into the serious stuff now.
Oh.
How in the hell did you manage to blow up a Chinese laundry?
Well, the chapter after the world is sex is about chemistry and valence, and that all the universe is trying to hook up. You know, two hydrogens, they have a menage a trois with an oxygen, and it turns out the water. And my best friend, I had a lot of best friends, but my friend was a Chinese guy named I'm going to say Gan Mao Ling, which is a Chinese medicine for colds. No, I have to look his name up. Anyway, Eng. And we were chemists, and we used to go on Hudson Street, you could go buy chemists, and if you said you were getting stuff for the school, they'd give you anything. So we used to throw lithium in buckets of water and watch it go crazy. And one time we were at his parents' Chinese laundry on West 4th Street, and we were trying to mix phosphorus with gunpowder in order, I don't know what to blow up, but we blew ourselves up. It went off. I was tapping it off a card, the phosphorus, and the little cloud formed. You know why they hose down construction sites to prevent explosions?
Oh, yeah.
Like, it blew up all of a sudden, it was just like, poof. I couldn't hear anything. I'm covered with blood. I walk out, there's nothing but smoke, and there was a fire he put out with his hands and arms, and we tried to put Band-Aids, and then we had to go to the hospital anyway. And we blew up the Chinese laundry, and that week it was Tiki No Laundry because it destroyed some of those, they put them in the brown paper.
Yeah.
Yeah, some of the shirts got burned.
Man, you're lucky you're
I never
alive.
saw him again after that. His parents clamped down. It was like a year. Put him in another school.
No more science.
No, well, he's probably probably get a Nobel for chemistry or some physics or something. He was a great guy.
Amazing.
I still have pieces of phosphorus in my arms and on my chest because they said, we can't actually take these out because if any gets in your bloodstream, it'll kill you. I said, well, then take it out. They said, well, we can't. It'll just encapsulate. And so I have these little bumps on my arm. I'll show you later.
Wow.
Cysts of phosphorus.
How was the music scene in 1977 here in New York different to how you perceive the music scene in New York today?
Oh, God. Well, 77 was the beginning of the end because all the bands that were there in 75 and 6 and then 7 were beginning to get record deals. And after you got a record deal, you had to go on tour, so you couldn't play CBs. And then you got big, and you couldn't play CBs anymore. So, but my God, it was so many bands, I mean, and so many of them did well. You know, your band and Blondie and Mick DeVille and all different stuff. Dead Boys and the Shirts and God knows, there were so many bands. And, you know, CBGB's is the only place where you could walk in and say, I got a band, and Terry would say, well, we'll give you a night and you'll be on the bill, and then we'll figure out if you belong in the roster. And then we would decide if they belonged in the roster or if they had to keep moving. But there were so many bands, and today you go to a place and there's 8 bands on the bill and they want to know who you're there to see. And that guy, I played for like 500 people and I get paid for 18 people because people behind me say, tell them you're here to see us. And people before me said, tell them you're here to see us and you'll get to see Richard Lloyd for free. And, you know, it's pay for play, really. And it's sad.
Well, and also, in Brooklyn anyway, there are many venues where bands are playing. In our day, there was 2.
None.
One, then 2, then
my
maybe
father's
maybe
place.
3. Well, that was out on Long Island.
Long Island.
Yeah. I'm thinking of...
I never left Manhattan for 30 years. Except my father's place.
We went to my father's place once, and Tina and I, in our Valiant, remember
a muscle car?
Tina's Plymouth Valiant. It was not a muscle car. It was like
I don't
sewing
know
machine.
Cars.
But
sewing machine.
Television,
right?
Talking Heads, Patti Smith, and the Ramones all played the same day. Can you imagine?
That's the kind of...
And we gave Tom a ride, and it was for some reason. You remember, Tina?
Did he read a dollar book on the way?
It was looking kind of stormy and cloudy, and Tom said, if there's lightning, I'm not playing.
Yeah.
I said, Tom, you'll be indoors. It's not an outdoor show. He said, nope. If there's lightning, I'm not playing.
If he got a spark off the mic, you know, I mean, I once was singing and I got sparks off the mic, so I had to say, you know, and I kept getting my lip, and then wine and urine dripped down from the upstairs. The second floor was a flop house.
Yeah.
On my mic, and a fly decides to land on my mic, and then the fly decides to land on me, on my nose, and I'm playing like this. So I'm bashing myself in the face. If Tom got a spark, he wouldn't play. You know.
Right.
He was like, somebody else test it with the, you know.
I understand that.
I guess a few people have been electrocuted to death, you know, playing rock and roll, but.
Yeah.
That's not enough
not too
to
many,
keep me from playing.
Okay. This is serious. This is serious.
Yeah.
When did you become spiritual?
When I was born.
Ah.
I was born an adult who had to pretend to be a baby. And then I had to pretend to be a child. And then I had to pretend to be a teeny. teenager. And then I became grown up, and I didn't want to grow up, and I didn't want to be a man. They stunk. As far as I was concerned, men suck. They still do. Many of them into football and beer and all the things I don't, and TV, and, you know, what are you going to do? I think people don't grow up. They remain, they're id, they stay id-like. Not even the ego. Ego is necessary to live in the world. But the id, that's the one that goes, mine, gimme, you know, when you're like 2 years old. And there's part of them that's still 2 years old, so I like avoid them, you know, best I can.
And you've read a lot of spiritual philosophy and stuff.
The world's
Gurdjieff and...
Gurdjieff, yeah, I follow Gurdjieff still. He's my teacher, as it were. And I spent 15 years with the Gurdjieff Foundation of New York that you can't find. I don't know how I found them.
Huh.
You can't find them. It's Christianity as many are called and few are chosen. In the Gurdjieff work, which is called the work, nobody is called, but if you find them, they put you to work.
Interesting.
But I've read up on, I was just reading the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali, another translation, earlier today on my phone, because we don't have any, I don't have a computer. I just have the phone at my hotel. So sad. Smartphone, though. Smarter than me.
You live in the countryside now in Tennessee.
How did that happen?
Isn't it great, though? Isn't
It is great.
Yeah.
It really is great. I mean, you don't get knocked down by people walking on the street. It's really lovely. It's a beautiful city. I would never have moved there because of the name. Never in a million years. Chattanooga, Tennessee, like with the Chattanooga choo-choo. And my wife's parents live there, and they're in their 90s. My mother lives in Sedona, Arizona.
Nice.
It's gorgeous, but I'm not going to go there because there's like nothing to do except look for UFOs and like get crazy, weird, you know, conspiracy groups. But Tennessee is wonderful. We're like halfway between Nashville and Atlanta. So did I just have a southern accent for like one word?
Atlanta?
I hope not.
Well, you know, we used to look down our nose. Downtown New Yorkers used to look down our nose at people who lived in the country. But now we changed our mind.
That's right. Our minds were changed for us by the abstract flow of time.
Do you recall a night in Glasgow, Scotland, Glasgow?
Oh, yeah. Which one?
When Ramones and Talking Heads and Television and Blondie were it was a double bill. Ramones, Talking Heads in one theater.
Yeah, and we were with Blondie in another.
Television and Blondie
opening.
Same night in Glasgow.
Was it?
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
well, they were both, I'm sure, packed to the gills.
both were sold out.
Yeah, both. Yeah. We played at 2,000-seat theaters in England because our record had done very well there in the press. They think of...
You guys were hero worshipped.
Yeah.
By the press.
Well, we were.
Yeah.
We are. We still are.
Yeah.
For that first record, you know, it's like the Doors' first record or Hendrix's first record. It's the first record to live the ages with. But England is tiny. I mean, it's the size of your home state, now Connecticut. But things that go big in England, America thinks is the same size. So, like, you go over there and you get big and you come back here and everybody's all gaga.
I remember we discovered when we went there that we thought, oh, punk music is the rage, everybody's a punk.
And they're gonna
but it was really like about 30 or maybe 50 people going to every show, and they all... Yeah.
They
were making headlines every night.
That's true.
Yeah.
They were the ones that wore safety pins through their jaws, and we didn't do any of
Yeah.
that stuff. And
No,
all
no,
their
no.
songs were political. Can't think of a single political song of the New York bands. I just can't think of any. Maybe there were some, but I didn't hear them. You had
Yeah.
one that was semi.
Don't
semi.
worry about the government.
Yeah, don't worry about the government. That's different.
That was
That's
more
like I want
about-
to sniff some glue. Don't worry about the government.
Yeah. Well, speaking of England, did you ever play with television? Did you ever play Eric's in Liverpool?
No, we never played.
It was
Liverpool
across the
that I
street
knew.
from where the cavern used to be.
Wow.
And it was exactly the same.
And the cavern is another
Structure as the
shithole, like CBGB's, right?
Well, it was down in a basement.
In a
and it
basement
was,
with
it was
no
more-
windows.
It was more like, it was brick, and it was like
an oven.
arches and no ventilation. No ventilation.
No.
So when you played down there,
It got steamy?
It was dripping. Everything.
Oh, my God.
Everybody was dripping.
Yeah, I played
Yeah.
a cave in Norway like that. They used
Cool.
to use it as a bomb shelter in World War II, and it turned into a venue in not in Norway, in Bergen, Norway. We played Tromsø. No, I played there on my own, inside the Arctic Circle. That was fun.
This is a question. How do you see the world? What is your view of the world?
I like the Earth.
Yeah.
The world is a place you have to endure. Being in the world is what they call agony, which translated from the Greek means trial. It's a trial, and it's also an adventure. And I love experience, no matter whether other people think that it's good or bad. I just love experience. And being in a mental hospital, state mental hospital, tied down to a gurney for 2 weeks is exciting to me. So that's what I think of the world.
Was anybody tied down with you on that gurney?
No, thank God. There was a guy tied down that tried to reach out to everybody's genitals. And it was a good thing he was tied down. Well, I was just tied down for being wacko. I never hurt anybody. I just went manic. I had manic depression, a frustrating mess.
Yeah. You're doing well and looking well and really productive now.
It seems that way.
Yeah.
It's
yeah.
an illusion, isn't it?
No, I think it's very real.
Yeah. Some trees bear fruit young, and some trees bear fruit old, and some trees have a season. So I guess I'm coming into my season, second, third, fourth, fifth round. And it's a very, very good experience. I love it. I love being alive. Breathing is just cool.
I agree.
Yeah.
This is my last question, and then we'll turn it over to the audience to ask questions.
Excellent.
But
Then I get to look forward to it. Then turning my head, get a kink in it. It's okay.
the question is this: do you have any regrets that
No.
you would care to discuss?
No.
No.
Regrets. I have some remorse, which is, you got to look them up, and looking at the sources, it's not regret. I don't regret anything, because it's like a water slide. You're in it, and you're going, and there's no way to halt it. Time just does that thing for you. And all experience is good experience. I'm sorry if other people don't agree, but it doesn't matter to me.
Cool.
Yeah, it's very cool. I mean, I've done things that I have remorse about.
Would you care to tell me something that you have remorse about?
Well, one time I was stoned and I decided to ride my bicycle, and my grandmother tried to block the door. I pushed her out of the way. Very sad. And then I rode half a block and crashed. into a tree and brought the bike back all in a shambles. I said, Grandma, you were right. And I don't know what happened, but she once washed my mouth out with an actual bar of ivory soap. This is when I was very little, and I must have said a boo-boo word. You know, the adults used.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, Chris, those are very insightful questions.
Thank you. I worked very hard on them.
I'm sure.
If anybody has any other questions, insightful or not, I will do my best to make a lap of the room. We have time for maybe 3 or 4. I'll start up here, and then I'll try to make my way. I'll bring you the mic.
Is my friend.
Hi. You know what?
Everybody's my friend.
When I heard you were here, we don't always agree. I was a little pissed off, but when I went to the bookstore, I looked at your book. I got to say, you really wrote a very good book. It's very interesting.
Thank you very much.
But here, I got like 3 questions. Well, one thing is, the thing you said about the stage, what you said, I believe it's true. But this man next to me made me think about this too. That thing about not putting the stage up front, there actually was a stage when you got there. Odie the Hell's Angel and Clayton built it. But putting it up front, you're right. And in the middle, my father wanted to do it, and I believe it's true.
Yeah.
You told them not to do it, and so did another 1,000 people.
Right.
Everybody thought it was a bad idea. And the reason he built the new stage was because Patti Smith was playing.
Hell no.
And he had to build
Patty
a bigger
didn't play there
stage.
for about 2 years.
Well, that's
we
what
were
he
already
said.
Playing there.
No, he had a stage there
Your
already.
father made some, mental errors.
He had a little
Wonderful man. Mud.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was on the jukebox. Hilly Crystal's single, Mud.
But there was a stage when you got there.
I don't remember the stage. He said,
Stage.
wait till I come down off the ladder, I'll show you around. And I don't remember a stage. I just remember him showing us around, and he said he was going to make it like a drive-in movie where you pass the stage as you go in.
Yeah.
And I said, but nobody will be able to hear when you're taking money at the door. And he said, oh, I'm not having loud music. And then I said, yeah, well, it'll be really bad for morale if anybody wants to leave, because that's what did the trick. I said it'd be really bad for morale because people would have to leave right in front of the band, which would, like, everybody be sad.
People thought that was a really bad idea when they built it up front. He also had fly paper up front for several years, which was... But, the shithole...
Let's get to your other questions.
Okay, the
though.
last question
We
is
got
this.
more people here.
Here's the last question. You helped sign some papers for me when... Well, I know it's just a long story.
Yeah.
But on it, you said my mother was the legal owner. In the book, you say you said my mother was the owner. In the book, you say
Karen.
my father was the owner. I'm a little confused by that.
Mistake.
Oh, thank you. And the last
she
thing
held
is...
the lease because they
Thank
used
you.
to argue about it.
No, See? Okay. I really appreciate it. The last thing is...
I'll have to read my own
When
book.
you walk there, the step ladder, he couldn't reach the canopy with step ladder. It was a black wooden ladder, and I held it as my mother
All right.
drew the canopy. And the thing about the drawing it, which I appreciate you said she did, but it's Karen Crystal. I wish she was mentioned. She also... The Gothic stuff, that came afterwards, not first. She drew everything. All he did is get rid of the dirt. But I appreciate it. You still did a great job, Richard.
Well, thank you very much.
And thanks for letting me explain it. I wish she got a memorial because she did a lot for everybody. Thanks.
Yeah, she pulled the plug a few times.
Any more questions down this way? I will come back to you.
Thanks, everybody, for coming by.
Hey, Richard.
Hey, how you
What's
doing?
up, buddy? It's your old friend Jared.
You're so far away. But,
Well, so this one of the best stories I've always thought that you told me back in the day when I was taking lessons. Didn't make the book, and I thought it would be great for you to tell it now, which is I was coming into a lesson one day with a Richard Pryor record under my arm, and you said Richard Pryor almost killed me, which I immediately assumed was a drug thing, but it's even better than that, and I thought it would be great to hear it since it didn't make the book.
My mother was an actress who didn't get very much work, And my father was a film editor, my stepfather, that is. And they had a comedian come over for dinner one day, and he told a joke, and I started laughing, and it folded me over my face into the mashed potatoes. And I suddenly thought that was the funniest thing I'd ever done or heard. And my mother said, "Oh, come off it. It wasn't that funny." And that was funny to me. And I ended up rolling off the chair and crawling into the living room, and I was gasping for breath, and I thought that was funny. And then I thought, I'm gonna die. And I thought that was funny. And like, I'm laughing myself to death. And that was funny. And it was like nothing that wasn't funny. And then I suddenly realized, Richard, you gotta get a grip and take a breath, you know? It was like, let this go. And so I did. But I've almost laughed myself to death a couple of times. I might do it tonight.
Any other questions back here? I'll bring it to you.
Wait for the mic. Then I can hear what you're saying.
I don't know you, and I haven't read the book yet. Maybe this is in there. But at one of your shows, you were pulling the strings. It was one of my great rock and roll moments.
Oh, yeah?
You were pulling the strings off of your guitar in some kind of an insane solo, and Tom was like looking at you like this, and I was slightly afraid for you.
And he
the
wanted
rest
me
of
to
the
do that
audience.
every night thereafter.
That's it. I was going to ask you. I really thought that it was a moment, you know, like
Yeah.
an off the cuff sort of a thing. But
It probably was. That was probably the first time. Which is cool.
But Chris Gow had written about it the next day and said that he saw you do it twice. And I said,
Oh, yeah. I
no.
started doing it regularly. And
Really?
when I couldn't do any more, I would tune the string all the way down, take it off the neck, and play it like a sitar with just by yanking on it and picking it.
That's like what Jimmy told you to do, right? Or John Lee.
Basically, sort
Yeah.
of, yeah. I didn't smash it. I didn't light it on fire.
Did you
know.
ever do that? Did you ever go out of control, like while you were doing a solo?
Tom did once. His jazz master started falling apart, and he ended up at Mother's on 23rd Street. That was you remember Mother's? Yeah. My mother went to Mother's to watch us play. That's a little story. And Tom went nuts and pulled the strings off as one by one, and then knocked the amp down, and it was a lot of fun. And I'm looking at him like he's gone bonkers.
And one more back here.
Hi, Richard. Thank you.
Hey, thank you.
Is there any reason why you and Robert Quine didn't play together on a Matthew Sweets album?
We're on one song, but we didn't play the solo. Matthew liked the solos from both of us so much, he left both of them on. But we didn't play at the same time because Matthew would hire us and fly us to where the studio was, and he couldn't afford to have both of us at the same time. That's really the only reason. So he would pick songs from each album for me, and then pick songs from each album for Bob. And it's really that simple. There's a picture, I think there's one on the website of the book. Oh, no, that's Cheetah Chrome. There's a picture of Bob and me playing together at CB's at one of these jam nights. Somewhere. I've seen it recently. What's that? The Blitz. No, that's right. The Blitz Band. Well, Oh no, here it is. That's right. Here's me and Cheetah Chrome and Jonathan Paley and Bob Quine all on stage. Oh, you took the photo. No wonder you know what it was. Congratulations. David took the front picture when I was in the hospital, and I invited him over, and I started to light a cigarette in front of the oxygen tank, and he said, and I said, no, take the picture. You know, oxygen doesn't burn. Carbon and hydrogen will burn. The cigarette would have burned like, but, and I might have burned up, but it was a good move, and I knew then the book was going to be called Everything is Combustible. That was like 30 years ago. So
I'm going to come
We
up
have
the
a
middle
few-
if anybody wants to raise your hand.
Few more.
Bring it to you.
Brave souls. You got people behind you, but
Hi,
keep-
Richard.
Hi.
This is your old friend Sylvia Reed.
Hey, Sylvia, how are you?
I wanted
A
you
lot
to,
of your friends are here.
yeah, I wanted to talk to you about, wanted you to tell everyone about your painting and
Oh.
about when is the next time you're playing here in New York.
Okay, thank you very much for the free publicity. We're going to be playing the Bowery Electric on April 6th, my band. And I paint and sell my paintings on Facebook, where I have the Richard Lloyd painting page, in addition to my own Richard Lloyd page, which I post on like nearly continuously while playing the guitar, most every day. And that's that. Richard Lloyd painting page. And in April, I'll probably bring some paintings along to sell them, but some of them are too expensive. I got one of those square things that you can take credit cards for sales. And I'll sell books or, paintings. And get this fellow
Here,
these.
we got one more back here, and then I'll come up
Okay.
there. I missed somebody back here.
Don't want to miss anybody.
Hi, Richard.
Hi.
Hi. Hi. I wanted you to address the first time I met you was at Theater for the New City, and my boyfriend was in the Stilettos. He was the drummer.
Oh, really?
And he said, "You're gonna love Richard Lloyd," because he's from Pittsburgh. We both are from Pittsburgh. But I saw you, and you had "Please Kill Me" on your shirt.
Right.
And you were a little detached and a little skittish, but
Yeah, well, I had two guys come up to me and said, "Do you really mean it?" Because
what I thought.
we'll help you. And I said, "No, I'm not wearing that fucking T-shirt again." And Richard Hell put it on his. That's
Right.
where the "Please Kill Me" came from.
right. And it
I played
really
it once
impressed
at
me.
Maxwell. It must have been at Max's Kansas City.
It was Theater for the New City and then Max's, yeah.
Oh, maybe I wore it twice. But
Yeah.
at Max's, they came up to me and said, like with these Google eyes, and said,
Yeah.
"We will help you." And I thought, oh.
Thanks.
You got this gentleman, Keith and Tina.
Hi there. I've always been fascinated by the song Marquee Moon. Can you shed some light about how the guitar interplay on that song developed?
Which one?
On the song Marquee Moon.
Yeah,
about
my solo break?
Well, just how the whole orchestration of the guitars, how that interplay developed.
Well, it took 3 years, so that would be a long conversation. Perhaps we can have it another time. I played a number of television songs, including that one, on my own.
But was Tom Verlaine also instrumental in the back and forth? Was it mostly you?
What do you mean?
What I mean is that when I listen to that song, it's kind of mysterious. I'm not sure how it's going back and forth, if it's.
He's playing the rhythm, and I'm doing the twiddle, twiddle, twiddles.
So it's more traditional than it seems.
I'm doing the
It's,
trills, okay?
All
That's
right.
that.
All right.
Sorry, I don't mean to be truncated, my own. Yes.
Hey,
Hello,
Richard.
Keith.
Great
One
to
of my
see you.
guitarists from on Field of Fire
Thank
in
you.
Sweden. Keith Patchell.
Thanks, Richard. I just wanted to say publicly, I love you very much. You're one of the most amazing musicians and people I've ever met. It was
Thank you.
such an extraordinary
Well, the love is mutual, and
experience.
it's called Boomerang.
Boom.
Boomerang love.
So here's my question. Just tell us really quickly about your current musical thinking and what you're kind of up to, if you
My
want to.
current musical thinking. I'm trying to organize a new record, and I'm probably going to do a pledge music to help, because there's no record companies left worth diddly, unless you're some sort of Broadway semi-pornographic pop thing with dancing and lip syncing and all the rest. And I'm just an old-fashioned rock guy, the rock that doesn't roll. So we'll see. And then they're talking about a live record. They've got a tape they like, and a small company's going to put that out. Then I'm not supposed to say this, so I won't. There's a couple of my catalog items coming out on vinyl in the next couple of months, including my favorite, The Radiant Monkey, which has its own philosophy and That's another hour. Thanks, Keith.
Are there any questions on the right side of the room? I feel like I neglected
You had
guys.
Tina. She did. And we can't miss Tina. Miss Tina Frantz, ladies and gentlemen. Bass player extraordinaire and woman of the decades. You have it written down?
Yeah, because
Oh, wow.
I have so many questions.
Okay.
You have an amazing memory.
Yeah.
Did you keep diaries?
No.
Even when you were stoned, you didn't write stuff down?
No, I never kept a diary. I did write notes, like I wrote for a couple of years. I wrote down every single yoga asana that I did in Sanskrit. You know, I do Paschimottanasana followed by Trikonasana followed by, whatever. And I would keep. Then one time I did a dream sort of book, where I'd remember what did I dream about last night? I had some of it stay with me. I used to not remember my dreams, and then all of a sudden lately I could, which is cool because it's just another compartment of yourself. So that's nice. Another question from you? You got the mic.
Yeah. Are you still playing a Fender Telecaster?
No, I'm playing a Fender Stratocaster. I've also got a Supro, it's called a Black Holiday. And I played that the last couple shows. I'm probably playing a Stratocaster tomorrow in Hoboken. We're going to do a number of songs at the book signing there at Little City Books. And yeah, Strat's my main guitar, but a couple companies have given me guitars, which I've then enjoyed. I have two like sort of George Harrison kind of Gretches, not Gretsch. What's the name? Eastwood guitars. I got a couple of those. Very sweet.
Okay, last question. Which one of the 6 strings did you start with?
Which one of the 6?
Teaching yourself to work up and down vertically.
Oh, it would have been the low E string.
Thank you.
Work your way across till you get to that weird one that's only on the guitars. You just follow the thing on 4 strings, you'll be fine. You're already fine. I usually play that one too. You play the 6 string too? No. No, not so much. Okay. The low E. The low E, yeah. That's the one with the most girth.
Well, thank you all so much for your question, and thank you very much, both of you, for being here tonight. Let's give them a round of applause.
Thank you, Chris. Thank you, Peter.
Thank you, Richard.
Great
Thanks,
pleasure.
everybody, for showing up. Delightful.